Hello everyone, welcome to my Evil Within, Akumu difficulty, no upgrade/keys walkthrough, and this is Chapter 6, Losing Grip on Ourselves. So Chapter 6 is considered by so many people to be the hardest chapter on this game, but I severely disagree with that. I didn't die once on this chapter. I mean, there were a couple of moments where I had to restart the checkpoint because of some really dumb mistakes. And these dumb mistakes included accidentally interacting with an explosive trap when I tried to pick up an axe, and missing a couple of my freeze bolt shots on the Sentinel boss fight. But other than that, I did not die once. So coming up is the sequence that everybody dreads in Chapter 6, and it is the Burning House section. And the reason why it's tough for so many people is because they try to kill all the enemies, but you gotta remember, Shinji Mikami designed this section, and Shinji Mikami knows how to punish bad players for trying to kill all the enemies, because this sequence is so easy so long as you know which enemies to kill and which enemies to save. If you're just continuously killing enemies, the game will just spawn more and more enemies, and you will get swarmed, and you will not be able to survive very easily. And the sequence is going to begin shortly, and I managed to get it on my first try. The only weapons I'm going to use are the shotgun and the flash bolts. These two weapons are going to really help in controlling these spawns. So in the beginning, I'm going to use my shotgun to get rid of the first two enemies, and I'm also going to be using the shotgun to get rid of the barrels. The barrels screw with your ability to hold the other three enemies that are going to spawn, and that's why I need them out of the way. This guy's still alive, so I'm going to finish him up with the shotgun. There we go. And you can choose to pick up his axe if you want to, and just save it for the next phase of this whole entire encounter, but I don't really see a need for it. And if you played a lot of Call of Duty Zombies, and you understand the whole concept of training zombies, then this is essentially what you're going to be doing. Only on this game, it's way harder because the Haunted like to do all sorts of animations. And there is a chance that one of the Haunted will actually go for Joseph, but it's very rare. And if he does decide to go for Joseph, you can either try to shoot him to get his attention, or just restart the checkpoint until eventually all the Haunted will just go for you instead of Joseph. But I always try to make sure I'm holding X while I'm holding these guys, because if I'm holding X, I will automatically be able to mantle onto that table. So it's nice that they've kept in that mechanic from Resident Evil 6 where you can hold X to mantle over objects, rather than just simply tapping it, and it's definitely important that you note that, because the detection on the mantling on this game isn't really the best unless you're holding down the button. And right there, Joseph has managed to open the door, so I'm gonna follow him. And that is the end of the first phase. And you get no checkpoint. You have to do all this Burning House section in one go. There's a freeze bolt, and there are a couple of shotgun shells over here. Now for this part, there are going to be 3 enemies. You gotta kill these 3 enemies, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this barrel. The moment they get near the barrel, I'm going to shoot it, but right now the enemies are spawning from that corner, which is so rare. Normally they're supposed to spawn where I was previously looking, but this time all 3 of them decided to spawn from that corner, which I've never gotten before. And right there, that guy almost grabbed me, but thankfully he died before he had a chance to grab me. And now for the tricky part. You need to use your flash bolts in order to get rid of 2 Haunted. One of the Haunted that has to die is the Fat Haunted. If you kill a normal Haunted and a Fat Haunted, you will stop the spawn, and you will only have to train 2 enemies. The biggest problem with this room is that there are some increases in the elevation that cause the enemies to do these fall down animations. And during the animations of them dropping down, they will not get affected by the flash bolts, so you have to make sure that the enemies are really grouped up. Otherwise, there is a chance that one of the Haunted will not get stunned by the flash bolt if they're in that animation. But I've done it correctly, and now all I've got to do is hold these enemies. It probably would have been a better choice to get rid of the female Haunted alongside the Fat Haunted, because the female Haunted, when she has that knife, she gains a lot of range on her attacks compared to the ones that don't have any weapons. And it's going really, really well. How anyone can struggle on this sequence is beyond me, but it's all because of the fact that they just go out of their way to kill everything, thinking it's an action game, but it's a survival horror game. And with the way this section is designed, Shinji Mikami really wants to remind you that you're playing a survival horror game. You have to know when to kill and when not to kill, and that's how you make these survival horror games flow properly. And that's the best way to punish anyone who thinks killing all the enemies is a great idea. But right there, Joseph is done, and all you gotta do is escape. And that is the end of this section, and now we're going to move on to the next section after we get the checkpoint. And we have now gained access to the sniper rifle, and the sniper rifle on this game is so good. It is so satisfying to fire, it is so powerful, it really has the kind of feedback I am expecting from a sniper rifle. And it is so helpful against bosses and against certain enemy types. It has so many utilities on this game, not so much in the Evil Within 2, unfortunately. In the Evil Within 2, The only section I really use the sniper rifle on is against the final boss fight, because of course the final boss fight you have to hit weak points that are out of range, and the sniper rifle is the best choice for that. Every other section, I can just use other weapons. So, my strategy for this whole entire section is to get rid of these enemies using stealth attacks, and it takes a while, but it's very effective. So after killing this first guy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick down this door, and the first enemy that spots me is going to try to come after me, but I'm going to generate a last known position because the door has closed. I'm going to hide behind here. He's going to know where I am for a couple of seconds, but once that timer has been finished, he's going to lose me. So here he comes. I'm going to hide around this corner, just in case he decides to drop down. And he lost me. So now I'm just going to sneak kill him, and I'm going to repeat the process once again. I'm going to kick down the door, and I'm going to wait for the first enemy that spots me to come towards me. I'm going to shut the door, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, and... oh, never mind. Right here. This guy decided to just come over to where I am for no reason. This is so rare for this to happen. And the only reason I was able to sneak kill him just then was because he was in a preset animation. So I have no idea what sort of programming he was trying to fulfill, but I'm really glad, because this means that this section is going to go by a little bit faster. Because this is the last guy I need to kill before I decide to go into the building. So, I'm going to open the door very slowly so that I don't alert anyone, and I'm going to sneak kill the guy down below. This was the part of Chapter 6 where I accidentally interacted with an explosive trap, and I had to restart the checkpoint because I don't like doing the explosive traps on this game. They're so hard, and I already know how to beat this game without disarming any of the explosive traps. So, having to interact with that explosive trap on accident when I was trying to pick up the axe was pretty annoying when it happened. But the only enemy left on this side now is a Molotov guy, and how I deal with the Molotov guy is I sprint to alert him, and I recommend sprinting near that explosive trap where Joseph is right now, so that you can lure him over to that explosive trap and then just shoot the explosive trap and just kill him. Because when Molotov guys die, they drop their Molotov, and it can do damage to you, which is why you specifically need to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And that was interesting. I actually killed an enemy using the bottle, which I didn't even know was possible. That is the first time I've ever killed an enemy with a bottle. So, bottles on this game do damage to enemies, but the damage is so little that you oftentimes never even get the chance to kill enemies with bottles. I just got very lucky just then, because Joseph managed to weaken the Molotov guy severely somehow. And now that the left side is done, I'm going to go over to the right side. And you're going to be seeing some Resident Evil 4 mechanics on the right-hand side. Because in Resident Evil 4, there was a mechanic where if you shot enemies near ledges, or you knifed them when they were near ledges, they would always fall off. And this is the case here. I'm going to use a bottle to lure a couple of enemies over to a ledge, and I'm just going to shoot them. So, throw the bottle in that direction. The guys that have the masks on will not come down. They like to stay above ground. The guys that don't have the masks on will actually go to where the sound was. So I currently have 2 enemies. I'm going to shoot this guy so that he falls off. And I'm going to shoot this guy. Look how cool that is. They removed that mechanic from the Evil Within 2. But in the Evil Within 2, they didn't really include a lot of ledges for the enemies to stand near. So even though the mechanic was gone, it didn't really make that much of a difference whether it was gone or not. This guy spots me, so I'm going to have to melee him, or just shoot him. I choose to melee him because I don't want to run the gamma with the random variable. And he's not in any kind of grab animation, so I know that he's going to respond to the flinch. So the only enemies left now are just the guys with the masks. And this is important right here. You have to trigger this trap because Joseph has a tendency of killing himself with this trap. Hug the right-hand side, and the trap triggers. And Joseph will not be able to kill himself. And I broke those boxes just then, so one of the enemies is going to be alerted to me. He's not going to go down all the way. I don't know why this is the case with this particular guy when you break the boxes. But it doesn't matter because the moment he decides to climb up the ladder, I'm going to shoot him and he's just going to fall down. You see what I mean? This section is so great. This is a Resident Evil 4 section, and I actually used that whole mechanic of using ledges to my advantage for my handgun/consumable only run of this section. And it proved very beneficial, but it was very time-consuming. But now there's just one guy left, but Joseph's actually going to knock him off, because Joseph was on the ladder at just the right moment. So he's going to climb down the ladder, but then Joseph's just going to kick him off. And I'm just going to use a match to finish him off. So that right there is one of the few moments where Joseph can actually be very helpful. Like, Joseph can be pretty helpful in Chapter 6, mainly for this section, but every other section of Chapter 6, he's not that helpful. There are some sniper rifle rounds over there. And then I'm going to open the left door. You want to always open the left door because the left door is the one that always has ammo. And there's going to be a dynamite guy, so you have to run. If you decide to open the door to the right, there's going to be a bunch of fat haunted, and you get no reward from that room whatsoever. So that's why you have to open the left door. And the moment you decide to open one door, you cannot access the other door. So don't think you can just immediately access the right door after opening the left door in case you just want to, I don't know, get some green gel or something. It's not going to work. But the dynamite guy is dead, and he was the last enemy we had to deal with before triggering the checkpoint. So go ahead and loot this room over here. This crate has green gel, and then the other crate has ammo, and there's also some trap parts in this room here. And once you've looted this room, get ready for the next section coming up. So the next section coming up is going to be 4 carriages that contain guys who fire harpoon guns at you. And you have to kill the guys if you want to trigger the next checkpoint and stop the whole entire encounter. So I'm going to trigger the checkpoint. You can see the harpoons on the ground, indicating that I'm in a spot where the enemies can hit me with the harpoon guns. So use your sniper rifle to get rid of that guy. Get this guy to fire, and then run backwards. And after you kill one guy, there's going to be a bunch of enemies that spawn. And I actually learned on my handgun/consumable only run of this game that there's actually a masked haunted that is pulling a switch that allows the other enemies to get into this room. And I think if you kill him, it stops the whole entire spawn. So what I think would be a better strategy is to kill the guy on this section over here. And then when you see the masked guy going for the door, shoot him. And that'll probably stop the spawn. It'll be interesting to see if that actually works. So I should probably test this out in the future when I get the chance. But that was the last carriage. And all we gotta do now is fight the Sadist. And the moment you trigger the fight with the Sadist, all the enemies will despawn. Make sure you pick up the axe before making your way over to where the Sadist is. And the fight's going to begin shortly, so I'll explain how this is going to work. So, upon first starting the fight, I try to make sure that the Sadist is doing his charge attack, where he is running and swinging his chainsaw at the same time, so that when he's in the recovery frames, I can hit him with the axe. On this recording, however, he decides not to do it, so I'm going to have to change up my strategy a little bit and punish a different attack animation. And the attack animation I punish is an overhead slash that is then followed up by a horizontal slash. That's the attack that seems to give the most recovery frames, or like the second most recovery frames. And at this point in the recording, I'm just trying to get him to do his charge attack, but he's just not doing it. And it does take a little bit of time. This is roughly 35 seconds of me just running around waiting for him to do his charge attack, but he's just not giving it to me. So I've decided to speed up the video to roughly 17 seconds. And that's when I decide I'm just going to punish the one attack that I know I can punish, which is this. See? He didn't immediately attack after doing his horizontal slash after that big overhead slash. So now that I've used the axe, I'm just going to hit him with a couple of harpoon bolts. I'm going to fire some pistol shots at him, and I'm going to fire my shotgun. In retrospect, it probably wasn't the best idea to use the shotgun for this fight, because the harpoon bolts and the pistol were more than enough to finish this guy off. And all I was doing was just wasting shotgun shells. And the shotgun is definitely imperative for certain sections of Chapter 6. But see, look, I have plenty of pistol rounds left, but then I just decide, oh, I'll just swap to the shotgun just to make this go by a little bit faster. But that was definitely not the best choice. I could have easily finished him off with the pistol, but instead I just get creative with blind fire. And blind fire, as I've already mentioned, is just something that people barely use, but blind fire with the shotgun is so powerful. It is really good. The shotgun is the only weapon that really benefits from the blind fire. Every other weapon, the blind fire doesn't really work that well, and there's no reason to use it. Otherwise, you're just wasting ammo for your other weapons. But the Sadist is done now, and all we gotta do is just make our way up to this lift. You gotta burn the body that's blocking the door with a match, and the game gives you 5 matches back, which is handy. That right there is the stamina penalty that you get whenever you use up your stamina. If you mash X, you'll recover from the animation faster. That whole system is removed in the Evil Within 2. In Evil Within 2, Sebastian could still jog while he was low on stamina, and you could actually bypass that animation by using the cover system, which was really handy. It helped a lot in moving very fast on that game. But right there, what I did just then may seem very weird to you, but it's actually very helpful. By planting that explosive bolt on the back of Joseph's head, this happens. And this section is done. Trying to shoot those enemies with the pistol and getting screwed by the random variable is really annoying, and there's no reason you should waste your sniper rifle on a bunch of pointless enemies that die in one shot from every single weapon. And plus, I can just get an explosive bolt back in the next section, so I used my explosive bolt very effectively just then. But not for this section. So, this is a section where you need to assess the situation properly. The first Haunted will always attack you, but every other Haunted will just go for Joseph. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill the very first Haunted, and I'm going to block the path on the other enemies, and they will never attack me. And all we gotta do is just wait. The guys who are throwing the axes and the dynamite at me will never be able to hit me, and they will never prioritize Joseph. So, Joseph's going to be able to open the door without any kind of obstacles getting in his way. And this just absolutely trivializes the sequence. If you're not so confident in your ability to get rid of the first Haunted, or you're afraid that the other Haunted will just be able to get past you very quickly, a safer strategy would be to just plant a shock bolt before the fight begins at the spot where I'm standing right now, so that you have plenty of time to just burn any enemies on the ground, and you'll just be able to get to this spot and just stand here, and the rest of the enemies will never be able to get past you. It's just so cool that there are sequences like this in this game. It fits the survival horror nature of this game properly, because assessing the situation and knowing how to respond accordingly fits the survival horror nature perfectly. That's exactly what survival horror is. And there we go, the sequence is done. And I'm actually going to demonstrate a little glitch in this section. If you sprint just before the conversation that Sebastian and Joseph have, and you just keep holding L1, you will gain unlimited sprint. Only for the area that you're currently in right now. The moment you decide to kick open the door, you're gonna lose the unlimited sprint. But just look at it. Look how fast Sebastian runs, and then compare that to Resident Evil 4 with how fast Leon runs on that game. It's a big difference. Can you imagine what this game would have been like if you had unlimited sprint? I think you could have been unstoppable. So it's definitely clear why the stamina penalty is a thing in this game. It's to make sure that you're not being too powerful. It's the same case with like Resident Evil 6, for instance, with putting in that stamina bar to make sure you're not using the melee system too much, or you're not being too reliant upon the basic maneuvers. That way you're strong, but not too strong when it comes to dealing with the enemies. But here's a medkit. I just use the medkit just to get it out of my inventory. The medkit does increase your health slightly, but on the Akumu difficulty it's absolutely pointless. And I can't imagine why anyone would even want to heal themselves with a medical kit if it does this. I'm so glad that the medkits in the Evil Within 2 don't do that, even though I only play on Akumu difficulty now with the Evil Within 2. I mean, originally Akumu difficulty wasn't even a thing on the Evil Within 2. Instead, on the Evil Within 2, we had Classic difficulty, and Classic difficulty was just a lazy difficulty. Like, not only did the enemies have Survivor difficulty health, so they weren't even as hard as their Sniper difficulty counterparts, but the game limited your saves. And it didn't even hark back to how Resident Evil did its saves originally, since of course Shinji Mikami was the guy that made Resident Evil. So you were expecting the ink ribbon-based system in the Evil Within 2 with Classic difficulty, but instead they modeled after Dead Space, where the saves are already designated for you, and you can only save 7 times. And the problem with the Evil Within 2 was that it was a rather lengthy game, so at some point you had to make a save. And also, the game just has a tendency of crashing, and I should probably talk about this right now. I love the Evil Within series, but the optimization in these games is not very good. I mean, the Evil Within 2 is optimized a little bit better, since, of course, it runs at an unlocked frame rate. But the biggest problem with the optimization is just with the crashes. There are times on this game, and also in the Evil Within 2, where the game can just crash for no reason, and the crashes happen during very specific moments, and the fact that the developers haven't even fixed these issues with the crashes, even though the games have been out for such a long time, is just baffling to me. I mean, I know this is Tango Gameworks' first game, and I know the Evil Within 2 was the second game that Tango Gameworks made, but still, though, it shouldn't be that hard to fix these kind of optimization errors, especially when Tango Gameworks has several developers that worked in previous companies that fixed these kind of issues with crashing. So I'm just so confused as to how these crashes could still be apparent. But I guess I should be grateful that the crashes don't happen too frequently. But still though, if a game's gonna have crashes and you're gonna design a higher difficulty, like Classic difficulty, where it just limits your saves and does nothing else, that's just a fundamental failure in difficulty design. But right there, I just let Joseph do all the dirty work. Joseph is so powerful with that sniper rifle. He will just instantly kill every single enemy that tries to come towards you, and he will help out in this boss fight a little bit by taking shots at the enemies, but he doesn't do it that frequently. This is the only time Joseph will gain access to the sniper rifle, and then later on he'll just go back to his pistol, only he has unlimited health, which is how he should have been designed from the very beginning. And the boss fight is about to begin. So this boss fight requires you to fight 2 bosses. So this is the first boss. This is Zen. Zen is not the one you want to worry about in the beginning of this fight. Go ahead and run past him, and then you need to go over to a specific gravesite and get under it. The brother that you have to worry about the most is Nun. Nun's gonna bust out of the wall in just a moment, but he's not gonna get the chance to hit me. And from this position, you have the advantage. They cannot pull you out of here, and they cannot attack you through the geometry. So how this is going to work is, while they're busy getting distracted by Joseph, I'm going to take shots at Nun. Watch out for Zen's range attack, where he throws his club at you. And Zen will only try to attack you if he has his club, because he's the more cowardly of the brothers. Nun will try to attack you when you're in his line of sight. Nun has a pretty dangerous attack where he can do a charge attack, but the good thing about the charge attack is that he has to see you within his line of sight for a certain amount of time before he actually decides to do it, or if you remain out of sight for way too long. But as long as you're inside that gravesite, he never ever does the charge attack. And when it comes to dealing with Nun, I only ever use 3 weapons. I use the pistol, I use the shotgun, and I use the agony crossbow. Specifically, the harpoon bolts and the explosive bolts. And I have to use 2 explosive bolts because I will get back 2 explosive bolts in this boss fight. And there are a couple of opportunities to use environmental hazards to your advantage, because there are a couple of lanterns that you can shoot and they will do fire damage to the brothers, but getting them into the right position to do that is not really easy to do, so just follow the strategy that I'm doing right here. I'm currently out of harpoon bolts right now, so I'm going to have to swap to the shotgun, and I'm just going to unload on Nun with my shotgun until he gets stunned, and he's going to get stunned right now. So he's not dead, but you are free to lay into him. It's just, if Zen decides to do this and stop you, you're going to have to retreat back in here. And you'll hear in a moment, Joseph is actually taking shots at these enemies, and he does do a lot of damage with that sniper rifle. It's just, he barely participates. The game really expects you to do most of the work here. Like, it doesn't really make any sense though, because Joseph has the high ground, and he keeps saying, I can't handle them on my own, but they just cannot get to him. So, why he's not taking pot shots at the enemies right now is just so baffling. And I'm currently down to my explosive bolts, and the first shot I fire from the explosive bolt will kill Nun, now that I've dealt enough damage to him. And I'm just waiting for the right moment where the brothers are trying to attack Joseph so that they're not too close to me. And this is my moment to attack. And Nun is dead. Now, Zen is so easy to deal with. All you gotta do to deal with Zen is get him to do his range attack, because if you're standing at the distance, he will always do the range attack. But I didn't have to do it because Zen was really low on health, and he is dead. And that is a pretty simple boss fight. And fun fact, you actually get to fight Zen in the Executioner DLC. I've never actually done content for the Executioner DLC. I think I need to do the Executioner DLC at some point on this channel, because I think it's definitely a DLC worth doing a walkthrough for. Maybe I'll add in some special restrictions, like not using any other weapon except for the hammer. And maybe I'll add in a no upgrade requirement, just to make the Executioner DLC a little bit more challenging. So stay tuned for a potential Executioner DLC walkthrough. That'll be really interesting to see. But go around the area and scour for ammo. I obviously need to get the ammo because I need to get back the explosive bolts that I used. And you need explosive bolts and the sniper rifle for the Sentinel boss fight. Those 2 weapons will really help for the first phase. And then for the last phase of the Sentinel boss fight, which is completely optional, you need freeze bolts and grenades, and also some sniper ammo. The only reason I'm going to try to kill the Sentinel on this recording is because I take pride in the fact that I've discovered the strategy in order to do so. And by showcasing how to kill the Sentinel, if you yourself choose to skip the Sentinel boss fight entirely, you can use those resources for different chapters and make it a little bit easier on yourself. That's pretty much the whole point of these kind of walkthroughs that have these particular restrictions. By demonstrating the game in a restricted format, and the fact that it can be done with such a restricted format, I'm able to showcase the fact that playing through the game normally on its highest difficulty is so easy to do. So, when people are calling Akumu difficulty the hardest thing ever, and that they wish that the difficulty didn't exist, I'm just like, what are you people talking about? Akumu difficulty is an absolute joke. If I can do Akumu difficulty with these kind of restrictions, then most assuredly you can easily do Akumu difficulty normally, if you're not caring about the no upgrade aspect or any other restricted aspect. It does the game justice when you showcase the infallibilities of certain claims that people have about harder difficulties. I mean, Resident Evil 5 is a great example. Do you know the amount of people that consider Resident Evil 5 unplayable unless you use the store? Those people piss me off so much. And then these same people will call Resident Evil 5 a mindless action game, and that it doesn't even feel like a survival horror game because of the fact that they're being so over-reliant upon the store. That was the primary reason why I did a Resident Evil 5 no upgrade / no store professional difficulty walkthrough, just to put aside all these ridiculous claims that people have about Resident Evil 5 being unplayable without the store on that difficulty. Because those people are idiots. But this is the Sentinel boss fight. And I managed to get it done on the first try for the first phase, but on the second phase I had to restart the checkpoint because I missed my shots with the freeze bolts. So, you need the sniper rifle for this, and also the explosive bolts, as I've already mentioned. So, run past the Sentinel, and then get ready to prep your sniper rifle. The boss is going to try to do a charge attack at you, but if you shoot him at just the right moment, you'll knock him over, because that is realistic feedback right there, and it's something that Shinji Mikami really embraces with certain enemy types like this one. So, run back here. The boss will not try to attack you. If he does decide to attack you, get ready to shoot him. The sniper rifle is the best choice compared to the shotgun. The shotgun is so inconsistent. I know Serpent17 tried to use the shotgun when it came to knocking over this guy, but it just wasn't working very well. So, use the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle has a lot more damage compared to the shotgun. So, every time you knock this guy over, just shoot him with the explosive bolts. And there is a chance that he will attack you after getting hit by the explosive bolt the second time, but he chooses not to do the attack on me. And by the way, do not shoot this guy with the explosive bolts when he's in any kind of neutral animation, because he will actually shake the bolts off of him and throw them away, which is a very clever system. You gotta appreciate it when Shinji Mikami puts in such animations that defy your expectations like that. But this is the point where the checkpoint triggers, and that was very weird. Do not reload when you're pressing X, because then that happens. But anyway, get the boss to come out of the bushes right here. Fire at him once with the sniper rifle. He will try to charge at you sometimes, but Joseph will most likely save you using this cutscene, and you get full invulnerability. Oh, and by the way, be careful not to get hit by Joseph's bottles. Joseph can actually kill you with those bottles. Like, watch this. You see how close that bottle was just then? I could have easily died. Why is there a hitbox on Joseph's bottles? That is so stupid. But freeze the boss once he's distracted by Joseph, and then you're gonna need to cycle between grenades and freeze bolts. So after hitting him 3 times with the freeze bolts and using all 3 of your grenades, you're gonna need to finish off the boss with 2 sniper rifle shots. And I'm gonna demonstrate a trick with the sniper rifle where you can cancel the bolt pullback animation. So I'm gonna fire once, and then I'm gonna swap weapons, and then swap back to the sniper rifle so I can cancel the animation, and that allowed me to fire the sniper rifle very fast just then, and the boss is dead, and there is some free green gel for you to pick up. That boss is probably the hardest boss on this game, and I just trivialized this boss fight with ease. You will not believe how satisfying it was finding this kind of strategy a long time ago, and this is me just getting all excited. I always do this to bosses when I just romp them. The stomp might not have a lot of utilities, and it's only really useful in chapters 7 and 14, but my god is it so satisfying just to stomp on a boss's corpse over and over again, just to show that you just dominated them. And it never gets old in this game. It is still satisfying to this day. But now that the boss is dead, you can go ahead and pick up any bear traps in the area. I completely forgot to mention that there are a couple of bear traps on the Akumu difficulty that might screw you over. So when you are trying to run away from the boss, you have to take the paths in a very specific way so that you don't get hit by any bear traps. And there's actually something I forgot to bring up with regards to the traps on this game. It's kind of hard to notice, but did you notice that when I was near one of the bear traps, you saw like blood particles in the air? That is a subtle hint that there is a trap nearby. And the traps are always in the same positions, so once you've already recognized where the traps are, the blood particles are kind of redundant. I needed the blood particles in this case because I could not remember where any of these bear traps are. I mean, I know there aren't any bear traps in that corner I was just in. I know there's a bear trap somewhere here, and I searched around for this bear trap for quite a while, and I just cannot find it. You can see the blood particles around me. You see them? That's how I know there is a bear trap nearby. It's always so nice for developers to put in these kind of small features. And small features like this that are actually very beneficial are so cool. You know, one small feature from Resident Evil that a lot of people probably don't even realize, but is actually very helpful, is the head-turning animation. In games like Resident Evil Code Veronica, and Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 6, the characters would passively turn their heads towards an enemy, so if you couldn't see them if they were around the corner, or if, for instance, in the older Resident Evil games they were off-camera, you could use the head-turning animation to find where an enemy was. That kind of feedback was so cool, and it really benefited the gameplay on Resident Evil a lot. And the feedback for this game when it comes to finding out where the traps are, equally as helpful. I gotta give credit to Shinji Mikami for putting that in. But that is the end of Chapter 6. Stay tuned for the future chapters. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.